Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews, and today we've got ourselves a brand new TNG release. Yes, it's been a little while since we had a new release from TNG. It actually took me quite some time to acquire all of the old ones, but I'm finally there. However, again, it is actually one of two new figures they just released, the other being a new version of their Smilodon. But as you can see, we've got the Sinosauropteryx, and the figure looks absolutely gorgeous if you ask me. I think they did a great job on what we can see of this one, but of course we can't truly tell until we actually see the figure itself out of the packaging. But when it comes to the box art, you can see it looks really quite nice. Another thing interesting about this one is I believe it's a limited edition. I don't think there are going to be all that many of these made. I don't know if it'll state that on here anywhere. There's actually a fossil of the dinosaur, and then over here on the other side you can see some information that unfortunately I cannot read, and then pretty much the same thing on the back. Up there on the top, let's turn it around, you can see the treasure of Chinese Dinosaur Museum, and it does state Dinosaur Land up there, so I don't know if maybe this was an exclusive figure made for that or something, but I do recall hearing that this was going to be a limited edition release. So let's pop the figure out of the box and check it out. Okay, so I've got some mixed feelings straight out of the box, because first of all, the figure itself looks gorgeous. I think that it's one of TNG's best figures, if you ask me. No doubt about that. It's also nice to see one of their figures including a base. But my problem is, as you can see, I don't have the insect that's supposed to be included. There's supposed to be a little stand for the, I think it was a dragonfly, to potentially be eaten by our Sinosauropteryx, but it's not in there. And I looked everywhere inside the packaging, nowhere to be found, so definitely a little bummed about that. I don't know how I can go about getting a hold of that part of it. I guess I'll try to contact TNG and see if maybe they can get one out to me, or whoever sold this to Dino Mike Mac, who is actually the one that was kind enough to help me get a hold of it. I can ask him to possibly message them about it. But either way, we are missing the insect for this figure. So if, in fact, I end up getting it, I will put an update here on the channel to let you guys know that all is well as far as that goes. But as of right now, I'm a little bummed because of that. Regardless, again, as I said, the figure does look really nice, so let's jump to a closer look at it and check it out from there. So starting up here at the head sculpt of the Sinosauropteryx, first of all, you can see the detail looks really quite nice. There's a good bit of variation to the skin texture and stuff that you see here on the face for the figure. Another thing that's fun is it does have an articulated jaw, so you can open the mouth, of course, because it's supposed to be attacking an insect. Unfortunately, mine just doesn't have an insect to attack. But you can see the jaw works pretty nicely. Again, it works pretty much the way you would expect it to. It doesn't close perfectly. As you can see, it does sit open just a little bit, but for the most part, it works pretty nicely. You can see, if we take a look at the head sculpt, we've got some variation of colors. We have like a white, and then you've also got a dark gray or a black that runs from the snout up and transitions pretty nicely away. Same deal for the lower jaw. And then you have more of that darker tone return there in the eye socket area around the eye, a brown with a black pupil for the eye, and a very nice gloss coat in that area. As you move up to the top of the head, you start to see feathering pick up, and you can see variations of lighter and darker shades of browns up there. So that all looks really quite nice. Inside the mouth, you've got a purplish tone, it looks like. For the inside there, you've got the tongue sculpted out, and again, some decent detail throughout the course of the inside of the mouth. Nice gloss coat. A little hard to get in there because the mouth doesn't open super wide. So honestly, it's kind of hard to get in there to really see the detail, but it looks pretty nice overall. And I actually think it's a pinkish tone in there with a purplish wash, so it's kind of a mixture of both colors. But you can see the teeth on the lower jaw are all sculpted pretty nicely and painted nicely. Same deal for the teeth on the upper jaw. A little tiny bit of sloppiness right there in that area. But for the most part, it looks pretty good. Over here, it actually looks better. But as you move down into the neck of the dinosaur, again, you see more of those variations of browns, as well as that dark tone that kind of falls along the middle area of the neck, kind of bordering between the two colors of the lighter tone here of the underside and then the brownish tones of the upper side. But you can see, again, you've got like an orangish brown and kind of like a reddish brown kind of trading places here as you move down. And then as you continue to move along, you can see the arm is sculpted pretty nicely. We transition to a darker tone for the fingers of the dinosaur. You can see the nails kind of sculpted It's a little hard to really see them there. You can see this hand a little bit better, I think, than the other hand, and get a better idea of what it looks like. You can even see a slight gloss coat for the nails, which is nice. If we look from the front, you can see the feather detail again. Looks really good. You can see the throat on the underside of the neck of the dinosaur. Moving down again through the course of the body, you have all sorts of really nice feather detail. Again, kind of scruffier, almost emu-like feathers. You also have another variation of a kind of like a reddish tone moving along the back, just really subtle striping along the back of the dinosaur right there. You can also see that you've got more variations of the browns as you get closer to where it kind of transitions to the white. You've got a darker variation of a brown. I think the tones of brown on this look really, really nice, and there is actually what appears to potentially be like a light wash possibly applied to some of the browns. I can kind of see a little bit of a light tone highlighting some of the feather detail. And then as you move down here, you can again see the feather detail here of the lower part of the stomach again with the white. Obviously, we can see some of the browns have kind of run down here, but in one instance, you can kind of look at that as maybe being some slight sloppiness to the paint. But on the other hand, I sometimes, being somebody that actually has ducks and stuff, when it comes to the overall patterning of a bird, at times some feathers can randomly show up in different areas. So it almost looks like some of the brown feathers have just kind of shown up in the white area. So in a way, it actually kind of makes sense. And that could be just one of those situations here with this version of this dinosaur. But as you move down, you can see we do return again to the skin texture, and they've done a very good job of highlighting the detail in the legs. As you can see, you've got a very dark gray, but you have a light wash that's been applied to help highlight all of that detail perfectly. Very bird-like foot sculpt for the dinosaur. As it's walking along, you can see the foot picking up off of the ground. I can even see like some greenish tints to the coloration here of the foot. And you can see the underside of the foot also looks really nice as you move back up. So that is really, really well done. If you look at the other foot, again, you can see it is planted into the base very nicely. It actually stays on there pretty stable. And then we lead up into the extremely long tail of our Sinosauropteryx, and you can see we again get that striping effect moving out through the course of the tail with variations of lighter and darker shades of browns, again in between those white tones as you lead up, as well as the very nice feather detail the entire way up. And if you look at it from afar, you can see how tall that tail is. It is very, very tall. If we take a look at the opposing side, again, for the most part, it's going to look the same because the dinosaur is in pretty much the same position from both sides. The arms are in the same position. The only real difference here would be the fact that the leg is planted on this side. When you get nice and close, you can get a better look at what the skin texture and everything looks like, as well as the paintwork for the feet. Doesn't look like we actually have any specific paintwork for the nails. Maybe a gray. It's hard to really tell. But overall, I think it looks really nice. You can see the dew claw and everything on the opposing foot now. And then again, we lead up there through the course of the tail of our Sinosauropteryx. I do notice a little tiny paint scuff on the elbow on this side. But as you move down into the base, you can see the base is really nicely done as well. It's a nice kind of rocky area, almost like, looks like it's kind of running along the side of a mountain maybe. And then you've got a little tree here growing up through the side right in front of the dinosaur as it's kind of running along and jumping up at the insect. And right there is the peg hole for me to apply my insect that is non-existent on my figure. But again, the paintwork of the tree looks good. There's a nice light brown, and then there's a darker brown that's been applied with a wash to make it look quite realistic. And even the paintwork here of the earthy area and the rock formation looks really good as we have variation of color as well as a dry brushing to highlight the detail. And then if you come around to this side, you do have a little area of vegetation down here just for that extra bit of awesomeness for the base. But even without the insect being included, it is still one of my favorite TNG releases so far. As far as a size goes, it's definitely a tall one. You are looking at about 9.5 inches or 24 centimeters in height. For a length from the arm to the tail, about 8.25 inches or 21 centimeters. And then for a height to the top of the snout, a little under 6.25 inches or about 15.5 centimeters. For a size comparison, there is Mr. Papo T-Rex, the Attack Pack Colovosaurus, Robert Muldoon in the Collect A human being next to our Sinosauropteryx from TNG, and you can see it's definitely nicely sized, significantly larger than I was expecting. Not that I expected it to be huge, or not that I expected it to be small, but it's definitely a good bit bigger than I was thinking it would be, and you can definitely see that here, I think, next to these other figures. Unfortunately, the only other Sinosauropteryx that I believe I have is the PNSO Mini, which I'm not too sure where I put that, but that one isn't a figure that would really compare well with this because it's a mini, so it would be way smaller. But for another comparison, we've got a Mattel Velociraptor and Dilophosaurus, and once you see these next to each other, you can see the Sinosauropteryx is actually kind of similar in size to these figures, obviously up a bit taller because of the base, and the tail is way longer, which is to be expected, but you can see when it comes to like the overall body mass and stuff, it's very similar in size to one of these figures. Some more randoms here as we have the Collect A Deluxe Dimetrodon and Schleich Diabloceratops, continuing to give you an idea of the size. And then for just a few random TNG comparisons, we have the woolly mammoth next to our Sinosauropteryx. Here is the TNG Carnotaurus, which you can see is also kind of similar in size, but obviously a lot shorter when it comes to that tail length. And then one final comparison with the Cryolophosaurus from TNG, which you can see is also kind of similar in body mass, but also is another feathered dinosaur from TNG, which is cool. But overall, hopefully these comparisons help to give you a pretty good idea of the size of this brand new figure. So this TNG Sinosauropteryx is fantastic, honestly. I would say it's probably their best dinosaur that they've actually released. Like, they've done great on their prehistoric mammals, but a lot of the dinosaurs haven't been what you might call accurate, and I would say that this is the closest that I think they've come so far to what an accurate dinosaur would look like, and they did a very good job on honestly every aspect of it outside of the fact that they didn't include my insect. But past that point, the sculpt looks great, the paint looks great, we've got that classic pose for the dinosaur, again the pose that you pretty much always see it in, and the same gorgeous coloration throughout. And again, the paintwork is really well done. Like, they did apply a lot of variation of color, a lot of slight, subtle variation of color to it, nice washes in the legs and everything, and smooth transitions for the most part, and that includes the base again as well as really nicely painted. So the figure as a whole has really nice paintwork, that classic pose, nice detailing, and a very cool base on top of everything. Now, if I could just get my insect to polish this thing off and have my figure complete. But in the meantime, if you are interested, I will try to find a link to where you can purchase this, again from AliExpress. I did see it on there. I don't know for sure if it is still available. And again, this is a limited edition release, so the price was actually a little bit higher than you would usually pay. TNG figures are usually pretty cheap, but on AliExpress, I think this one was around 50 bucks if I remember correctly. So it's a little more expensive than your usual TNG release, but definitely, again, well worth it if you ask me. So if you are interested, check the link. Hopefully I will have found somewhere where you can purchase it, and like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.